Now, earlier we had twice severe recession. One was called the Asian currency meltdown in 1997, and during the recession of 2008, which sparked off from the US. We survived both successfully because of what? Firstly, food security, and second, our own stock market and the banks weren't so integrated with the world global markets. So today, our stocks CSE from Europe, currencies in the world, commodity prices, anything that happens anywhere around the world has an impact on Indian markets as well. So, which means you can't more think that India on an isolated mode. You have to think on a worldwide thing. How world can affect you. One is what India can itself get impacted. The second is how the world can impact India. One aspect of all our expenses in GDP, we have X amount of things from agriculture, X from manufacturing, and X from service sector. Service sector top the GDP contribution. There is one thing which for us is a problem always. We are on two sides, one with China, another with Pakistan, unfriendly to us. What happens in that case is our defense budget is 15.5% of the total government expenditure and 2.04% of the GDP. This works out to 4,30,000 crores each year. Now, what happens when you buy, like for example, India bought a Rafale for a few $1 billion. If you are buying Rafale for $4 billion, your 30,000 crores, you are writing a check and giving to France. How does it help your economy? Zero. It doesn't do. So therefore, unfortunately, but you can't leave your borders free. You have to take care of your border. You have to get defended well, which is a strength for you to do all other things, which is a strength for the investors to come into your country and invest because of your strength that you can defend your investments. And therefore, this defense investment or expenses in defense does not in any way help the economy for us as common men, but it is a dire necessary that we need to be doing. Now, তুমি কিছু বলবে আমাকে না ঠিক আছে বলে যাবো?
হ্যাঁ আপনি বলে যান, নো প্রবলেম।
Okay, fine. So there was a very interesting thing when I talked about the recession in United States. 2008 साले there was a big recession. Everything collapsed. Bond markets collapsed and the stock market completely was burnt out and banks failed. It was something that nobody thought US will be able to come out of this rut at that time. What they did, they moved very quickly. It was in December 2008. So they moved a bailout package. So it was called Troubled Asset Relief Program for $840 billion stimulus. And they bailed out those banks which had given loans to people who have got bankrupt. They had a very funny thing. They do this thing, lending, and somebody mortgages. Those mortgages are bought by a third party. The third party sells the mortgages to somebody else. So it keeps changing hands. So by line like a contagion, many failed. So the US government immediately helped with 1.5 trillion assistance at that time. What they did today in January 20, as soon as this happened, immediately they opened their purse. Not that they have huge reserves. But US is one country where they don't care about reserves. They can go on printing money. It is not connected with the gold reserves like most countries do, like we do. So what happened was they immediately opened up the purse and started a Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act in January 2020. and giving $2.1 trillion to the industry, to people, $1,200 to every unemployed person, American living in the United States and elsewhere. And like this, they started no direct to people, direct to industries, for businesses to pay their salary and survive. To see that there is no job losses, many things they immediately started. And corporate loans they gave 454 million. Small business loans they gave, household payments they gave, because rental, the landlord is saying pay my rent, these people have no money to pay, everyone has gone bankrupt. So unemployed insurance, tax deferrals, like what India is doing now. And then hospitals, many airlines went bankrupt, so they helped all these people. And this 2.1 trillion was more than 10% of the GDP, what US is doing now. So what I just want to mention something. This COVID business, though there is a lot of allegation that it started in China, one thing cannot be missed, that it is China which we are talking about when we are talking economy. There is only one we always talk, how to get a little bit of share of Chinese business into India. So what is China doing? As I told you, as against our 2.93 trillion economy, there is 12.23, 4 times our size. Their forex reserves are $3.4 trillion. Ours is $450 billion, which is about 9 times our size. So therefore, their trade surplus, we have a trade deficit each year, because we import crude and we export manufacturing products, we export service sector things. All this together, for us, we always, each year we have a deficit. For them, they have a surplus in China. Without service exports so much, they have manufacturing support as their strength, with $421.9 billion last year. That is a surplus. So the manufacturing units they have, though they call 2.8 million manufacturing units, India has 10 million, but Indian 10 million cannot compare with even 1 million of China, because we are too small. I have visited China, I have stayed in many places for as long as 1 month, looking up at surveying the Chinese industry. We can't compare each other. Now, manufacturing industry contributes 40.5% in China. Our manufacturing industry contributes 29.73, and of the 29.73, lot of items are raw materials like iron ore, aluminum ingots, and those kind of things. So therefore, value added items here we have to now concentrate now. What is now happening? What Indian government can do? Any time when there is a bad economy, any time when there is a lack of resources for all, when there is business losses, factories closing down, there is no job, there is no people who have no money. Okay, you have a excellent buffer. Food Corporation of India had huge millions of tons of food grains, which they are giving now free as suggesting sustenance help to poor people, which is a good government, any government must do. But beyond that, this is not going to help you in the economy. Mind you, it is not helping the GDP. It is not helping you in the economy in no manner. They have to increase the money supply. That is the name of the game. So how they can increase the money supply? The banks have money, and the banks do not have money. They have deposits, but there is no, the industry does not want the money. Because of bad industry, why they should take the botheration of taking loan and paying interest to the bank, and they don't have business? The business will go bankrupt and the bank will not get their money. So what really happens is, the government must ensure supply of money, more rotation of money. What happens in this? The government will go, in my opinion, the fiscal deficit, they have to go for a higher fiscal deficit if necessary. Our inflation is very low. Fortunately, we had though in 4.86% was the inflation last year. It was 2.37 or 2.4% the previous year. Our average inflation is about 3.5%. So we can afford a higher inflation at the cost of more money supply. Interest holidays have to be given to people who are borrowing. And today, I was listening to Nirmala Sitharaman, our finance minister, and I'll come to that at the end. Then incentivize modernization of the MSMEs. Most modern MSMEs I have seen are in very pathetic stage, old machines, old. If competing with China, you have to grow into technology and modernization. Promote labor-oriented industry. Now, this is again a conflicting thing between modernization and labor-oriented. But you see, Bangladesh, I have been visiting for the last 40 years. How they grew the textile industry, they started buying clothes from India. So it was our Bombay mills which were supplying the cloth. They were only stitching and exporting from Bangladesh. Then they started weaving. The textiles mills went for spinning mills. They were spinning the things. Then they had a weaving mill. They were buying yarns. They were weaving. Then they started buying cotton, started spinning. So each side they went for a backward integration. Today this thing is virtually, I think 14-15% of their total turnover is from textile trade. So they have huge employment in Bangladesh has been able to convert their human the population as a capital. Now simplify and compliances and exit laws. Only those who are in business know how difficult it is to do business in India. So number of forms, number of this, it goes on endless. And the last is industries suffer from land. It may sound a little difficult, but a farmer with 10 acres of land loses 1 lakh each year after the harvest, and either he has to commit suicide or take a long march to Delhi. This we have seen more often in the last 10 years than any time before. So there is another option. Look up at Punjab, look up at Manesar, Haryana, look up at those areas. They were all farmlands when I have seen. These farmers together in some parts of Maharashtra also, they gave the land to big industries. Now with the big industries came a lot of development in that area. Everything prospered. Now there are farmers who are having a few crores in their pocket. They can buy. If you have money in your pocket, you can buy rice from anywhere in the world also. So therefore, one is a secured food system, but the second is manufacturing industry has to be supported because that is the backbone. Service can stay, it may not. Tomorrow, if the service industry is directly dependent on the whole world, how they need your software, how they need your other things. On that basis, how your call centers and other things all work on the other people's needs, but your manufacturing industry can work on your own need. So that is one thing that what we need to do. So to me, people were asking how the government is going to, as you know, the Honorable Prime Minister made an announcement yesterday offering about 20 lakhs of rupees, which is 10% of the GDP. With our 3 trillion GDP, 20 lakh crores is something, $260 billion is a phenomenal amount for a developing country like us to offer. How they would manage the money? So very simple. In my opinion, as I said, money supply has to, fortunately, the lower inflation is an advantage for us. Therefore, what they can do is they can issue bonds, which is normally a government which does always. And these form, people who are in the economics in your college would know, a few days ago, there was the finance minister announced about a reduction in the reverse repo rate by the Reserve Bank. Does anyone know what reverse repo rate is? Reverse repo rate is banks borrow from the Reserve Bank when they need liquidity. There is a CRR, which is called cash reserve ratio. they have to maintain minimum. So when they fall short of the CRR, the banks borrow money from the Reserve Bank at a given interest. Inversely, the Reserve Bank can borrow from commercial banks. That is called reverse repo. They brought down the reverse repo. By doing so, money that is lying as lazy amount, a lazy amount what is lying in banks, can be borrowed by Reserve Bank for onward disbursals. So one, in my opinion, if the industry does not come forward to take directly money from the banks, I guess the government would take this money from the from Reserve Bank directly and start distributing this money to the society. There must be rotation, circulation of money for people to survive is the mantra. So, like direct money to poor, Janadhan Yojana, Prime Minister's Kisan Yojana, and you see people are, and then for women also there are yojanas which you are directly sending money. All this money they don't keep in the bank. They come out, they go to your market, they buy something, they go to your textile shop, buy some sarees, they go to another one, buy something. So this money starts moving around. On an average, each 1 rupee moves 16 times in India, and mind you, each one time some amount of tax comes in back to the government. Looking up at an average of 12% GST, if only 8 times it moves, you get 1 rupee back. Each 1 rupee given comes back to the government as 1 rupee taxes paid when it moves 8 times, and it moves 16 times. The government is never a loser by offering this money directly to poor people. So you see, India has already announced on the 26th March 1.7 lakhs. The finance minister announced $22.6 billion. And this was just the next day the lockdown was made. So this was largely a welfare scheme for people, free rations and free this Janadhan and Kisan and all these things directly to their banks. The next was liquidity injected by Reserve Bank of India, 3.74 lakhs. This was done soon thereafter, a few days in March, in the first week of April. Subsequently, one of the most affected when the stock markets fall and such thing happens, the mutual funds have very big impact. And 50,000 crores was provided for the mutual funds also. So you see already worth 6.73 lakhs or something was committed, and the expenditure is on by the government. The liquidity has come back into the market, and you see already a lot of activities that are going on. Now, then you have they cut the interest rates. One is by policy rate has come down by 75 basis points, repo rate has come down, reverse repo rate has come down, which means money has become easy to obtain for the activities. But then it is not a good news for senior citizens who are living on pension, who have to live on interest, putting their money in the deposits. For them, they will get lesser money. Now, there is yesterday, as you have seen, 20 lakh crores has been announced yesterday by the PM, and it was today, tomorrow, and the day after, the finance minister will be explaining about the details of this thing. It involves 4 areas: land, law, liquidity, and the 4 L's, which let me see. I have to, the 4th L, I forget. Let me just see 1 minute. So this is something that what the government is trying to do to help out. 1 moment, please. Primarily, this is to give Atmanirbhar India, self-sustaining India is the name they have given. And for 4 pillars: economy, infrastructure, technology-driven systems, demography, and demand. Land, labor, liquidity, and law. A lot of reforms are going to take place now. I wouldn't say if the reforms are going to be good or bad, because some reforms are very critical difficult to digest in case of labor and all that, but I will not get into the political aspect at all. Talking to you people, I will retain only to the economic aspect. MSMEs have been phenomenally given assistance in today's this thing by the announcement by the finance minister. I could hear some portion of it when I joined this webinar. Huge amounts of money, 3 lakh crores, has been given as collateral free automatic loans for the small industries. So you can imagine anyone who is having a small industry who is suffering for money need not suffer. And they have made several other announcements that up to 200 crores government purchases will not be anymore a global tender. It will be purchased only from local, which means Make in India and Local India is now gaining prominence. So for Indians, it is not a very bad situation. If India is serious about Make in India, what we need to do, the government must be brave to borrow and increase spending. 20 lakh crores, I do not know how much is actual money and how much is by various schemes. This scheme is a long-term business. I need money to come in immediately to circulate into the market and start going around and giving a new thrust and new hope to people. Second is supply chains must be strengthened. Supply chains are all damaged beyond reprieve for this moment. If people are not going to China, they are not going to import things, then our own industry will also suffer a very serious scale. What we need to be doing is we have to start building our supply chains, make a list of all those things what are being imported from China and what we could start making without too much of difficulty. So therefore, those areas would have to be concentrated. And my own aspiration is every state, rather than fighting amongst themselves, must ensure what they can do the best and allot area, let's say 1,000 acres, 2,000 acres for new industries which can be set up and which can offer products what we were otherwise importing from China. And workers' return have to be facilitated, without which small industries cannot function at all. One of the aspects is technology at all levels is another thing what the finance minister spoke about today. Technology must be supported. And as I said, modernization and technology is one of the most important aspects what would grow our industry and sustain our industry for the future. Infrastructure is another very critical area. I would have to tell a very small story when I talk about infrastructure, which I've told in many places. China was exporting from its harbors to west coast of US, and the numbers of containers were huge. Any ship that was at that time having more than 20,000 containers in one go. Normally, the containers which come to India has 800, 600, 500, 400 containers at the most. So any ship which has more than 20,000 containers were where they were classified as high capacity ships. They ordered for a few ships like that. The first one was built, and it was coming from Maersk, which is a very famous company which is building ships. They were building it, but they found that it cannot come through any canal. It has to cross through a Suez Canal, or it has to they cannot bring the whole ship by any normal shipping lane. So what they did not join the ship. It was in 6 pieces. It was towed to China. There they welded and built the ship. The ship has got 16 cranes built within. It can travel from Chinese harbor to the western part, like for example in California or any other place. 7 days time, it makes a round trip and comes back. 25,000 containers it can clear in 2 hours time. So you can imagine, in India, that is something that's going to take a long time. It is not something that is, it is not something that I'm pessimistic about India, but the amount of money that what China has, they built their whole city. They have malls, they have factories, big factories, small factories, cinema halls, workers' quarters, every other thing that you can dream of in a whole township. And then they say, please come invest here. That is the kind of money they have. So we don't possess that money because we were poor, we were colonized. China was not a colony. So therefore, they have an advantage. Now, the last thing that I want to say, COVID, when it throws challenges and we are used to sitting at home now, it also has thrown another important thing. We have become self-reliant like never before. We had zero PPEs, personal protective equipment. We are now doing 2 lakh pieces a day. That is the kind of production we do. And masks, the same. We had to bring it from China or some other place, costing 450 rupees a piece. It is available in any store today for 150 rupees for 10 pieces. That is the kind of speed with which we can do if we really want to. I want to end with a very optimistic note that India will rise to the occasion to revive in 2-3 years' time to be among the 3 largest economies. I cannot create the first few trillions are very difficult. From 2 to 3, it did not take too long. From 3 to 5 will be even shorter. We have 131.3 billion people whom we have to convert into human capital. And I'm sure with our knowledge, with our technology, with our ability for jugaad, quick solutions to problems, I think India will grow, and you will all be a part. Many of you are youngsters, and you will all be a party and witness to the growth. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you may ask me now.
Okay, so thank you very much for your thought-provoking lecture. Now I will request the participants, if they have any question, they can send us in chat. Okay, I will read out the questions for them.
Yeah.
And another thing is that we are continuing this session, okay, because the Zoom has given us an extension, so there will be no need to log in again. Zoom. So we are continuing this session. Okay, so I have a question for you. Okay, the question has been asked by Dr. Somindra Mohan Biswas. He is the head of the Department of History. His question is that on the one hand, India is trying to reopen up her economy, and on the other hand, restrictions will be there. So how far this will help India's economy?
This is a kind of question that was asked to me in Europe when I was a few years ago. The footwear exporters from Italy wanted a free run into India. We could not allow them because it was an artisan industry. Many people, their lives depended on it. Any opening of economy must be without causing impairment to the existing factories, particularly micro and small industries in India. So therefore, we have opened up free FDI is 100% available in many industries, including footwear. But then the question is, when you import shoes, you make the shoes here in India, it is easy. But then if you are importing it from Europe and you want to sell it here and you want a zero duty, that I think India is not prepared for the moment, because you have the primary objective is to employ and make our people useful for our economy.
Okay. So another question is from Shoranshu Thakkar. Okay. He is asking that, sir, is it possible to convert unproductive population into productive population through a series of small scale industries after the lockdown? If so, then how much will it affect the Indian economy?
See, I head a engineering college. Many are young engineering graduates. They will all be graduating. Each year they are graduating out. You know the scope of employment for engineering graduates at this point of time. It is bad. I always tell them that rather than looking for a job, become entrepreneurs, even small. It may give you enough trouble, but then if you do not have the courage to, try and exercise and investigate what you are worth of, what you can manage. If you don't need to be employment you keep at a distance. Many things that could be done today. Jobbing can be done. You don't need to own a factory. You can go into places. You can hire all facilities, whatever that is required, and keep on doing things for others, and you can gain a lot of money. In my opinion, when you become an entrepreneur, you can earn certainly more money than you are ever employed in today's scenario. That is what I want to tell all the students of your college also. Don't keep only employment as one of the criteria. Also be open towards starting an entrepreneurship. There are several government schemes that helps you to start small medium things that of your own, Swanirbar things, and where you can expertly do things and in a much better way.
Okay, so I have got Professor Ashish Kumar Pan. He's a senior professor at our college in the Department of English. I think he wants to ask you some question. So I will just unmute his mic so that he can directly talk with you. Okay, sir, please, if you can
yes,
give your brief observation on today's program, and if you have any question, you can ask him.
Just one point. First of all, I must congratulate the speaker. He has given us in detail the various aspects of economic prosperity regarding with reference to the ongoing onslaught, so to say, coronavirus. But what I like to know, he has just touched on this area, that is on education institutes or educational scenario. He has given us the idea that online process will be developed, number one, and number two, only for the practical classes, online process will not do. In that case, the students and teachers, they have to be develop a kind of eye contact. Otherwise, many things can be done through online method. But my point is, the colleges like Bidhan Chandra College and many other colleges, where plenty of art subjects or commerce, the teachers are there and they are teaching in a different mode. But the present online system, do you think that it is gradually making them superfluous or redundant? Only one or two very efficient teacher will do. The other teachers are to a certain extent to be superfluous or redundant. This is my question. What will happen to them in the maybe in near future or in the remote future? This is the question.
Sir, in a wartime, in the battlefield, you don't get a nice bed. You have to live in a tent. The situation today is really the same. It is not a question of an option. When you are given an objective test, there are two boxes for you to tick, either or, A or B. But in this case, only one box. You can't tick in two boxes. So it is out of compulsion. We are trying to work. My son studies in his post-graduation he is doing in London, in Delhi. He is in Calcutta doing his classes because the Delhi hostel is closed because of the COVID, and he is completing his graduation here. So it is now out of compulsion we are doing, but then the impact of this is on a long-term basis is not easily assessed, because running a college, when you have an infrastructure of a large this thing and faculty and acreages and all that, is expensive. And then students, like you have that Indira Gandhi National Open University and all that, many people have graduated from that and they have grown. Few things can never be substituted. Engineering courses, some of the computer activities, what you're doing, of course, most of them can be done online also. And then chemistry, physics, biology, physiology, those things would have to be under the guidance of the mentor and in the laboratory and all that. But then there are a lot of theoretical things where you can do away with this, and online can be done. Rather than to stay at home and do nothing, this is a good thing which has begun, where people are now taking to online courses. And in fact, in my college, suddenly the UNIDO came up with ideas of starting some certificate courses. Everyone is now got a certificate from UNIDO, 2 or 3 different courses. These are all fringe benefits or peripheral advantages of doing. So rather than looking up at it as a impediment or a problem, kindly look at it as an opportunity, to continue with this. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Okay. So next we have Professor Venkatesh Varan. Okay. So he will also give his brief.
He is my old friend.
Okay.
Dr. Venkatesh is my old friend.
Yeah. So he wants to ask you a question. So I will also ask him to give his brief observation on today's program and to ask you the question he wants to ask.
Yeah.
Mr. Kumar, are you able to hear me?
1 minute. 1 minute. I can't hear anymore. Why? Yeah. Just say anything. Let me see if I can hear.
Are you able to hear me?
No, I can't hear. I think, are you on with your mic?
Yeah, he's on with his mic.
Yes.
1 minute, please. Something went wrong. I don't know why my thing stopped.
I think he's having some network problem.
now?
1 minute. The thing went off. Just give me a minute.
Are you able to hear now?
Just 1 minute, huh?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Arvind.
So before he comes back, I have some announcement to make today. The one is that we are going to organize this kind of lectures in the coming days also. This Friday we are organizing a lecture on research methodology that will be delivered by Dr. Ashish Nondi. He is the assistant professor of Kazi Nazrul University. And after that, on the next Friday, we'll have another special lecture on COVID-19 through the lens of a doctor. And that lecture will be delivered by Dr. Sudipto Chatterjee. He's a general physician of Ramakrishna Mission Association. So you all are welcome to those programs also. Okay. So now he's back, so you can ask him the question.
Still,
Okay now?
wait. There is still some problem. I don't know what really is the.
But we can hear your voice.
Something went wrong with the audio.
Is it okay now?
Wait.
Are you able to hear now?
I don't know what went wrong here.
So can you hear me?
Yeah, better.
You can hear me, right? So I am reading out the question for him. Okay.
Yeah.
So his question was that is it going to be the proverbial light air, the end of tunnel for India, particularly with many companies planning to shift base to India?
Once again, please.
I think he wanted to ask the question is that the as many companies are planning to shift to India, so is it going to help
China?
India or not?
Those
Yeah,
who are working in China. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think he wanted to mean that because there are some type mistakes.
Those Japanese and
Mm-hmm.
American companies who are located in China, you want to ask if they are coming to India.
Yeah.
Well, there are one or
They
two
are planning to shift base to India.
there are one or two very important big companies. For example, Apple has got a very big manufacturing program in China. There are talks with India for shifting it over to India, their activities. Then you have POSCO, the Korean steel major. They came to Odisha a couple of years ago, but then there were problems, litigations, land things, and so on. They were so fed up, they went away. There are again, New Delhi has reopened the talks for bringing them here. It's a big this thing, almost some $10 billion worth of investment. So, but then I must also warn, India right now cannot bring all. India is not equipped to bring all. They find more comfort I read now of 30 companies who have moved away from Japanese companies who have moved away from China. 23 have gone to Vietnam. 3 have gone to Indonesia, and only 3 are coming to India. So therefore, we are not really a hot spot and destination yet. We have to, until our policies are simplified, rules are easy. Most important is, the bureaucratic things are shortened. I think you will have FDIs. That I think the government will do now. They are realizing it, and I think it's time for us to reform the complex tax structures. It is not easy. You can start a company, you cannot close a company. So those things are now being addressed to, and I guess so that would see certainly every company in Europe, their minimum pay is 2,200 euro. 2,200 euro roughly worth to 1.5 lakhs. And for 1.5 lakhs, you can hire somebody in India for a whole year. So therefore, no company will avoid, which have got high labor intensive industries, will love to come to places where you have enough labor available, plenty, and at cheaper rates. And that is a thing that will always happen. The US went to Korea, they went to Taiwan. And both these countries, slowly from $200, $300 a month, it went to $2,000 a month. So they moved out. They went to China. They are moving out. They went to Vietnam. They are moving out to Cambodia. They are going to Laos. They are going to other places. So India will have its time, provided we play our things well. That is important. Our cards well.
Okay, so the next question is from Professor Unmesh Mondal. He is of our college only. He has asked that which sectors are going to excel in their business in this situation. Which sectors are going to excel in their business in this situation?
Again, can you type it out and show me?
Yeah, which sectors are going to excel in their business in this situation?
Extend in this business situation, you mean?
Yes. Which sectors are going to excel? Which sectors are going to excel?
এখনো শোনা যাচ্ছে না ঠিক মতন, মানে নেট প্রবলেম আছে কিনা বুঝতে পারছি না। আরেকবার বলতে হবে।
ঠিক আছে, আরেকবার বলছি।
Can you put
from Madhusri Chatterjee to what? Chat টা খুলছি আমি। কি নাম বলছিলেন? Who was the question? Who?
Unmesh Mondal, Professor Unmesh Mondal.
There is one question that I see from Ramnath's iPad.
No, before that there is a question.
Not too optimistic. Now, 2-3 years is something. What I meant was to go out from this depressive state and to go back to your 8 to 9% GDP growth. It will take 5 to 6 years. If the money that is pumped in is utilized by the industry properly and it gets circulated, in 6 years' time, in my own opinion, I think we will be coming out of this rut completely. And 2 to 3 years is a play time, because one more critical thing is we are happy with monsoon. If 1 year we have a bad monsoon, there is a problem. I talked about so many things. We need to change our attitude in one area. Agriculture. Agriculture, where we were traditionally doing paddy, we have moved on to cotton. Now, between paddy and cotton, if the paddy is requiring 2,500 liters of water per ton of paddy, cotton is requiring 10,000 kiloliters, 10,000 liters. So therefore, a high amount of water usage in certain things, because of quick money, cash crop it is making those places infertile. And neither, after a few years, they would be able to do cotton, nor will they be able to do paddy. So therefore, fundamentally, there has to be some change in their attitude to do that and to stay on to foods related things for our own safety. Any other question, please?
Okay, over there, now you can hear, right?
Asking, sir, will there be an exam this year?
No,
exam হবে, সকলকে pass করে
Deptanu?
দেবে। That's what my own. In my
Deptanu?
college, I'm going to do that.
Deptanu?
So, it's going to be we are having
বলছি আমার একটা question, I've already put up a question there. If you can please read it out. The second one, the Swadeshi versus Videshi economy. You can please read it up.
Sold, because skill development is something that we have started in huge things. We are doing a lot of skill development. Finally, you know what? It is easy to get a job abroad as a carpenter, as a truck driver, as a textile printer, and those kind of things, rather than a BTech in something that comes later. So once you are able to get into your skill, excel in a skill, and then start building your career from then on, much easier, much better, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't say no to education. Education is a must. You must have graduation, you must have your things and all. A BTech or a BE or a BCom or all those things are very important. But then, notwithstanding that, knowing a skill changes your life. For everyone, there are a lot of girls I see here. So start doing something related to textile designing, textile printing. You don't need to be a part of National Institute of Fashion Technology or anyone. You can do by your own. Just designing for yourself by people, hidden talent. This is the time, in 2 months' time, we would have all seen some hidden talent with ourselves, by which we could make our lives far more better. Arbolo.
Another question is there from Professor Somendra Mohan Biswas only.
Sectors are going to excel in their business. Ekjon keu Unmesh Mondal চেয়েছেন, and sectors গুলো আমি বলেছিলাম, I had already told in my speech, sectors like agricultural, pharmaceuticals and all will excel, and sectors to do with survival essentials will go on, and sectors which are non-essential will face challenges unless you have more money, spare money, and you have time for other aspects in life like entertainment and all those things. হয়ে গেছে?
আর একটা লাস্ট কোয়েশ্চেন আছে, ওই কোয়েশ্চেন ডক্টর সৌমিন্দ্র মোহন বিশ্বাস করেছেন। নো নো, আই এম নট ইন মিউট। শোনা যাচ্ছে এবার? হ্যালো, শোনা যাচ্ছে না?
Can anyone hear him?
হ্যালো,
I think the audio has gone off.
ওকে, so আমরা next we are having only we are having a senior professor, okay, from Madurai University.
I guess so. We are. I have finished all what I have to say. If you have any further queries from your college, from your students, from your faculty, do
Yes.
mail me. I'll respond. With that, I will end here with a thanks to your principal and to you for inviting
Okay.
me and talking about COVID. Don't lose hope. We are going to build our nation together and to be a strong one. Right?
Okay,
Can I say thank you all?
yeah, thank you for your time also. Okay.